This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, Ron, you're good to go.
All right. It's June the 15th, 2021. This is the monthly meeting of the Dayton Utility Service Board. This meeting is open for the public to listen in real time and by recording afterward, and an option has been provided for residents to speak during the meeting on agenda items and during the public comment section. Present on the phone are the clerk treasurer, Michelle Freeword, our town attorney, Reed Murtaugh, town manager, Mark Harlow, town marshal, Scott Taylor, and the 5 members of the town council that will now identify themselves by roll call. Jen,
Here.
Carla,
Present.
Stan,
Here.
Ashley,
Here.
and I'm Ron, so all 5 of us all the members are present. We're going to move the sidewalk ordinance to the regular meeting, so we'll do the payment plan now. Reed, do you want to explain the payment plan?
Yes, thank you, Ron. So we've talked about this at a couple of meetings. Now we have the resolution with the term of 12 months. So right now, if anyone is in the town is behind on their bill, they're going to be offered this plan. And as we discussed before, basically they have to pay 1/12 of the past due bill in their current bill for 12 months. And as long as they do that, then they would not face any late fees or disconnect. In addition, there's a separate enrollment period. So if anyone is current now and not eligible, but has a past due bill any time between August 1, 2021 through July 31 of 2022, they would also be eligible for the payment plan. For those residents, they would be required to sign the contract, their payment plan contract, no later than 30 days after the account becomes delinquent. And in those circumstances, the utility clerk or utility service board would send them the documents notifying them that they are behind and they are eligible for the plan, and give them a deadline for when they have to return it. So for the current people who this would apply to, there's a letter that will go out to all residents, and the letter can be finalized after we approve the resolution. So the town council can make any changes to those terms, and then the utility clerk will have the authority to finalize that letter. But as we had discussed before, town residents will have to sign and return the agreement no later than July 15th, 2021. And I believe we can talk about the time. I think 3 o'clock is the time for that. And then also, which we can discuss after the resolution is passed, is we have a separate letter that will go out for notice of a reinstatement of late penalties. So everyone in the town will receive this notice. So this is notifying everyone that effective August 1, 2021, the town of Dayton's municipal utilities will reinstate shutting off services and charging late penalties for failure to make timely payments for utility services. However, for anyone who opts into the payment plan, those penalties will be waived. So services will not be shut off. Late charges will not accrue during the time that the resident is on the payment plan. However, if there's a breach of the payment plan for non-payment, all of those waived late penalties would be assessed. So that's the overview. We first need to approve the resolution. So let me know if you have any questions before we go forward with the resolution.
Okay, thanks, Reed. I'll go ahead and make a motion, then we can have a discussion. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution. Michelle, what resolution would this be? The number? Michelle, are you on here?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. I don't know. I haven't been in the office, so I wasn't
Okay.
asked to look up that number.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2021-something. We'll put that in there. Resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Dayton for temporary authorization for payment plans for municipal utility accounts.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution, the number resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Dayton for temporary authorization for payment plans for municipal utility accounts. Okay, we'll open this up for discussion. Is there any? Look pretty good to me. So any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a roll call vote. How do you vote, Jen?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so it passes 5-0. Now, we have these templates for the letter to the customers. We can tweak them. Do we do that now, or can we do that in the office, or Reed? What do we?
I would like you guys to just do a motion to get on the record what you want in the letter, and then from that point, then the utility clerk would have the authority to finalize the letters and send them out.
So I've got a letter here.
Oh, there's some changes I think that wanted to be discussed.
Okay. Do I make a motion for this payment agreement letter and then open it for discussion? The one I've got in front of me, the one you sent?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Make a motion to approve this COVID payment plan agreement letter that was sent to us. Need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a second. So we'll open that up for discussion now. Has anybody got any thoughts on it? Any changes?
The 3:30 p.m. time needs to be changed to 3 p.m. I think, since that's when town hall closes.
Okay. 3 o'clock.
And then
Okay.
at the bottom it says if you have any questions concerning this agreement or the requirements of it, please call. We need to fill in the person to call.
Okay, who do you want to
We'll
call?
just say the utility clerk at town hall, and then put the phone number for town hall.
Okay.
Press 1 for utility clerk. I don't know how we want to work it, but
All right. Any other changes? Okay, go ahead.
I don't know if it would be better with this letter or maybe better with the letter about the reinstatement of late penalties, but I was hoping to get some information out to all the residents about indianahousingnow.org and our township trustee, because those are two things that could help with utility payments or renters.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want to do that with the letter that goes to all residents or not?
I think
that would be better.
Okay. Okay, then never mind. Scratch that for now,
What? Why?
because this code
Oh, just with this
plan
letter.
agreement letter is not going to everybody.
Okay, so any more changes on the COVID payment plan agreement letter we're talking about?
Yeah, I guess I have one thing to raise. So right now we, with the actual contract, we have, blanks for the amount that would be due each month, which would have to be calculated. So are you wanting to send the residents this blank contract and then they call, and if they're interested, then utility clerk would calculate that for them? Or are you wanting, before these go out, all of the amounts to be calculated and filled in the contract and then sent out?
I think the first one, send them a blank one. So then whatever day they call, whatever their account balance is that day, it'll be calculated then.
Yes.
I agree.
I
Okay.
did have one more thing on the contract. I guess I was just looking at the letter, but for the contract, the bottom paragraph here, it states that if I miss any one of the scheduled payments, my service will immediately be eligible for disconnection, and late charges will be assessed for all months that were waived while on the payment plan. And I guess I had it in my head that the late charges would be assessed only starting like for the August billing, not for the entirety of their account balance.
Well, I think that lines up because no late charges have been assessed because of COVID, and they're going to be initiated August 1. So that would line up.
But for like, let's say someone has a $400 balance and they pay down 1 month, but then they still they miss the next month or whatever. So late charges start. Let's say late charges start and they have a balance of $400. I was thinking the late charge would be only on the amount that was accrued after that 400. Do you get what I'm saying? So like the late charge is a percentage, and I don't want the percentage to be calculated off of that. I don't want to say old debt, but the debt from previously.
Yeah, well, it's not because the late charges is only on the unpaid bills, which is going to not be the balance. It's going to be the August charges.
Okay.
And then moving into September, it's on the September charges, but we can't charge late fees on months billings that were not done. So
okay. Perfect.
I think we're fine with the language.
Okay. I just was reading it wrong. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So we have a motion and a second by Carla on the COVID payment plan agreement letter. We'll take a roll call vote. Jen?
Yeah.
Carla?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so it passes 5-0. So do we also need to approve this notice of reinstatement of late penalties?
Yes.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the notice of reinstatement of late penalties. Need a second.
A second.
Okay, Carla seconds it. We got a motion. We'll open it up for discussion. Anybody got any comments on it?
I do.
Go ahead.
With this, since it goes to all residents, I think it would be nice to put some information out about help that people could get. And the two that I was thinking were IndianaHousingNow.org and our township trustee. I'm sure there are others that I just don't know about, but I think it would be nice to get information out there where people could go.
Good. We can put that on there. Any other suggestions? Okay, we got a motion by me and a second by Carla on the notice of reinstatement of late penalties. We'll take a vote on it. Jen?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And Ron, yes, so it passes 5-0. Okay, do we have any other papers on that we have to okay? I don't have any. So.
Yes, just motion to approve the COVID-19 payment plan.
Okay, we need a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the COVID-19 payment plan. We need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the COVID-19 payment plan. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote on it?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so it passes 5-0. Okay, any other comments on the repayment plans or anything? If not, we'll move on to adjustment reports. The adjustment.
Ron, I just have one thing.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Reed.
I think we talked last time about a date that you guys wanted to have the letters sent out.
Okay.
Did you want to clarify that? Since we have it approved tonight, we're basically mailing.
What date did we decide to send them out? I forget.
As soon as we could.
I think we talked about them going out in July, so that they're aware of it for August.
I'm pretty sure we said that we were going to send them out as soon as we approved them at this meeting. That way people would have them and they'd have plenty of time to look it over and make a decision and sign it and get it back to the clerk.
Okay,
Yeah, so maybe like by the end of this week or?
As soon as we can.
We can, okay.
Is that okay with everybody?
We need a specific.
And
Okay.
Bridget's going to send these out based on what was discussed tonight, or is she going to have someone review it, or what do you want to do to actually get these out to the door? Yeah, the changes.
Oh, for sure we'll have somebody review it. I assume Ron is utility president.
Yes, I will. I'll get that taken care of. Okay, and then we'll get them out. Okay, thanks. And then we'll get them out as soon as possible. Okay, moving on to adjustment reports for January, February, March, and April, and May of 2021. I think last month we asked Michelle for a detailed report on the 604 fund for utility deposits due to the large amount of transactions dealing with the deposits. She gave us a report for February 2021 and 4 transactions on it totaling about $210.
Yeah, there won't show anything on that 601 fund report until you guys physically approve for me to send out checks. That report is only generated when I physically create checks. So until you guys approve that, those large corrections from the old adjustments, it won't exist. So you guys have to make a decision on that. So you guys have up-to-date deposits that have been mailed out. That's all that there's been mailed out up to May.
Okay.
There should be some sort of paper trail with deposits in and deposits out. I don't think that
there's
the way that
there's been no
deposits
deposits out. When you make an adjustment to apply a deposit to an account and it takes up the whole bill, and or say that there's some left until I physically create a check to return any remaining balance. There's not going to be a paper trail in funds because there's no existence. So until you guys approve that mass update that I did, there's going to be no paper trail in funds. There's only a paper trail in utility because it's just been physically edited to the utility bill. No money has been physically returned to any customer regarding that mass update that I did. And that's what I tried to explain numerous times to you guys. So since there's such a massive amount, and we had talked about how some of them are 10 plus years old that we owe money to, I wanted you guys to physically vote and make that decision, because probably a lot of those people don't live at those same addresses that were forwarded. So we're going to have to contact people to get their current update addresses if they're owed money. So that's why you guys need to make that decision before that process gets started on that mass amount.
Well, not just that mass amount, but anything. So what about the ones that aren't refunds people?
So
what about the deposits?
So the deposits that have been applied have either been to like where it was in an even amount, so therefore we did not have to send out any physical money. The deposit was just applied to their account in utility. So that's not going to show up in fund. Fund only shows up when I create a physical check. So like those ones that you see that happened in February, if you go and look into their account, you're going to see that a certain amount of their deposit was either applied to their account, and then you're going to see what they were owed in that difference back on that 601 report or 604 report. Like I said, there's not really ever a mass amount of deposits that are getting returned. Only in this one situation when I did the update. But again, I've not physically done any of those. I've applied to people's accounts their deposits in utility, but I've not physically reimbursed anybody that had leftover balances. So once you guys decide what you're going to do and those checks are created, then you'll have a massive 601 report that will then match up with what the adjustments did. It will show. But until you guys make that decision, you're just going to see the regular, normal, current deposits that Bridget is turning over to me, and that people have moved out, and that this is what they're owed back.
Shouldn't there be a check created, like against the 604 fund, when you apply the deposit to the account?
It's being done in utility. It's being applied through utility.
So there's no paper trail of deposits in or deposits out.
The deposits out are the money that's going physically out to the customer that they owe left.
So I mean, like, but what about the deposits? I get that, but what about the deposits that they're not owed money because their balance was higher than their deposit?
Right. So that adjustment is made, and it shows in the adjustment. That's where that line says a deposit applied to final bill, and then you'll see that in their line, and then you'll see where they then paid the remaining amount. Now, if Keystone says that there needs to be a different way, but in the 3 years that I've been here, that's the way it's always been done. There's only been anything ever done through funds when anybody is actually owed, like say their deposit was $125, but their bill was only $79, you would only see that difference of, the X amount. That's the difference between the 125 and the 79. That would be the only thing that you would see, because that money would be taken out of the applied refund to be sent back to the resident.
So where does the deposit go when someone pays it? Does it go into the 604 fund?
Yeah, that's the deposit, the
Okay.
water meter deposit.
So then it just makes sense to me that there should be a check applied from the 604 fund to the person's account so that there's a paper trail, and so our fund is accurate. And it should come out of that 604 fund when it gets applied to the account.
I'm just doing it the way that I've been taught and the way it's been done for 3 years. If Keystone says that there needs to be another way done, then I can talk to them about it. But this is the way it's been done for the 3 years that I've been there.
Okay.
All right.
I'd like to just hold off on these if we could.
Okay.
We can figure out the correct way to make sure we're doing things appropriately.
Well,
Okay.
you guys need to decide what you're going to do, because, I did those, 3 months ago? So you guys are delaying things even longer. So, there's a massive amount of people that are owed refunds. So you guys need to make that call, because we've been waiting months for you guys to make the call of approving to return those deposits.
Right, there is a lot. And like you said, some of them are very, very old, and they may not live at that address.
Right.
I don't want it to sound like there are people knocking on town hall door waiting for their deposits. That's not the case whatsoever. But I don't want to push this through if we've been doing it incorrectly for 3 years. And I'm not saying you're doing it incorrectly on purpose or anything.
Doing it through fund, or how it's applied, as far as what was applied to their account, and the difference in the money that they're rightfully owned, are two different sides. So if people are owed balances, that has nothing to do with the deposit that's applied to their account, and how that money that's physically being applied to their account that they're not owed has nothing to do with the money that they're owed. So if Bridget needs to start calling these people and getting updated addresses, that's going to be a time-consuming project for her just doing that. But this money is rightfully owed to these people that are owed balance.
We can start on that. So let's move on here. We'll get it cleared up. We just got the utility office and everything split up the last couple months. There's been a lot of stuff going on and everything, and finally it's separated. And thank you, Michelle, for your help in doing some of this. So let's move on.
Hey, hold on. Go ahead, Jen.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, before you move on, there's just, with the deposits being applied as adjustments instead of going into the fund and out of the fund, and some other things, accounts that, even before COVID got very, very high and they were never assessed the late fee. There's just been some things with the utilities that I'm wondering if we shouldn't get the utilities audited.
That might be a good idea. There was a lot of accounts that seemed strange. So.
Well, I guess my question is, like Michelle said, it's a separate question of when that money is deposited and it goes into the 604 fund, whether that money actually needs to be physically moved. But is there a question regarding these accounts, that refunds are owed? Can you guys, I'm not saying that you need to, I'm just asking, can there be a limited motion that just says you're approving, refunds that are owed to be those checks to be issued?
They have a stack of the 185 accounts printed off, and to sit here and accuse ultimately me of doing something to people's accounts, it's all in black and white. So please don't make any accusations that I did anything to anybody's account. That's absolutely absurd. All of these accounts that I updated, I wasn't meaning you, Reed, but to sit here and say that, so we have one big bank account. It's still the water fund. So just transferring it, if it needs to be transferred from the water fund to the water, I mean, you guys act like money is just mysteriously not being added. I mean, that's a 2-second process if we need to transfer money over from the water deposit to the water. I just think it's funny that you're trying to make this a lot more complicated and make it look like there's something fishy going on. You guys aren't understanding, but you're denying these people who have been denied 10, 15 years of their deposits. Yeah, people aren't knocking on town hall's door, but most people they're not going to sit here and nag when you sit here and say that you're going to get a deposit out or you're guaranteed that money back. It's the town's responsibility, and these accounts go all the way back to Ron's time.
Okay, Michelle, that's right. They go back to my time, so I think there's a lot of people waiting an awful long time. We can take a couple more. We can take a couple more weeks and look into it. I think Jen's got some questions. I certainly, there's other questions. I mean, I look at some of these accounts, and why did some of them get up before COVID to $1,800, $2,000 with no penalties on them at all? That's breaking our own ordinances and stuff. So it's not just nobody's accusing anybody of anything, but we just took over this office, and there's a lot of stuff that we were never privy to one little bit, anything, until we took this over, and we want to look into it and be sure that things are done right. So
well, you also need to realize that wastewater utilities, or not wastewater, people that are well water, we can't shut them off. So
I know that, Michelle, I know that. I was a clerk for all those years. I know you can't just shut them off. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people who have town water, and they got sewage, and they're sitting up there, and month after month after month, they're not paying their bill, and they're not getting a late fee. Now, if you want me to bring up the name, if you want me to bring up the names, Michelle, I'll bring them up. I think that's sort of a private matter. So let's move on.
Has gotten penalties.
Let's move on here and get on with it. How about Mark? Why don't you do the utility report, please? We'll look into this other stuff in the back, in the side.
You've had months to look at it.
Mark. Are you there, Mark? Your utility report?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here. The first item I have is underwater. Each year we flush and flow test 20% of the fire hydrants in town. That way, every 5 years, they've all been flow tested for fire protection purposes. And we usually do that each July or August. I'm just letting you know that I'm going to, just like we have in the past, Emmy Simpson is who's done that for the last 3 years, and I'll be proceeding with having those hydrants flushed and flow tested. What I'll do is whenever that's scheduled to happen, we'll post it so that people will know that if their water's a bit discolored, it's due to the hydrant flushing. It usually costs us, I think last year it cost us $2,100 to have this done. But it's money well spent. I mean, while they're doing this, they also do maintenance on the hydrants, and that's replacing O-rings and greasing the valves on them. So it's a good program we've got started here, and I'd like to continue doing that. Mark, another item underwater. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mark, does that hydrant flushing, is that part of our fire rating also for our fire department?
It is. It is. And a matter of fact, Sean Alkire had emailed me, I think it was last month, and that rating, which is for insurance purposes and does affect people's house insurance rate, is done every 5 years, and it is actually due this November. So after these get flushed and we get the flow reports on them, I'll be sharing that information not only with the fire department, but also with this rating agency who Sean and myself will be meeting with in November. So yeah,
Okay,
there's more than one purpose for it, and it's a good program. Also, underwater, something I don't have listed there, but every 3 years, the town is required by the state of Indiana Department of Environmental Management to do lead and copper sampling. We last did it, of course, in 2018, and all the tests came back good. But once again, this year, being on the 3-year rotation, I'll be conducting that sampling. I have to get 10 samples from customers, and that will happen. I've got that scheduled for the week of July 4th. So I'll have more information on it, but just making you aware of it. It's something that is state required, and I'll be overseeing that, make sure it gets done here in just a few weeks. Under wastewater, so each year the city of Lafayette requires that we have our meter calibrated that measures the amount of wastewater that is sent to Lafayette for treatment. So we had that calibration done in May. It's just part of the criteria that we have to meet whenever we're in our agreement with the city of Lafayette. I think when we go down through the bills, one of those from B.L. Anderson is for that annual calibration. Also concerning that metering station is the one that's just on the west side of I-65, and it has been sending me a signal that the battery has a backup battery, and the only purpose of this battery is for when there's a power outage, it would then continue to measure flow. So it doesn't, it doesn't mean that things start backing up and it causes actual physical problems for the town, but it does, the system shuts down. If the power goes out and the backup battery's not staying charged, it just stops reading. So it gives us an inaccurate reading on what we're actually pumping out. But so that circuit board that controls that recharging of that battery apparently is going bad. So I got a hold of B.L. Anderson, who sold us this mission control system here several years ago. To replace that circuit board for that charging system, labor and material is $785. So, it's like I said, in 99.9% of the time, we have electricity, but it's that very small amount of time when we don't that this system is necessary. I guess I'm one that if you have something, I'd like for it to run properly. So I guess I'm just opening that up to discussion to see what your thoughts are on it. If we want to spend that money on the battery charging system out there, or just what we want to do. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I'd make the motion. I'd make the motion that we, replace or do what's necessary to have the system work properly.
I second it.
I agree. We need to ensure that it's working properly.
Okay, we have a motion by Ashley and a second by Ron to spend $785 for a circuit board or something?
Circuit board for the battery charging system, yeah.
For the battery charging. Okay. Any more discussion on it?
I'm fine with it, but is there really an alternative? I mean, is this something that we really couldn't do?
No, the only alternative is to not have backup power out there when the power goes out. That would be the alternative.
So what happens when we pump stuff to Lafayette, but we have no record of it?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Wouldn't be happy.
I get
best guess at it.
No, they wouldn't. They'd be sending us a note saying, "Hey, why isn't this working correctly?"
Yeah, and then we'd be like, "Okay, let's get that fixed now." So might as well fix it now.
All right. So any more questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second to buy this new circuit board for $785. How do you vote, Jen?
Yeah.
Carla? Carla, how do you vote? Okay, Stan?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so Mark, you can go ahead and purchase that.
Also under wastewater, an item that's not listed is we had back in April, we had all the lift stations. We had them pumped out, cleaned, and did maintenance on all the pump motors and stuff. And one of the pump motors at Deerfield is not showing the right voltage. It's pump number 2. In 2019, pump number 1 did the same thing. We had them pull the pump and rebuild it. The nice thing about Deerfield is that we always have a spare pump for that specific lift station sitting in the shop. So what they do is they come here, they pull the bad pump out, put our spare in there, and then they rebuild the one that's going bad, and then send it back to our shop, and it's a spare for the next time. So pump number 1 did this back in 2019. We had it rebuilt, and it's the one that's actually sitting in the shop now. But now pump number 2 is showing the wrong voltage or amperage on that pump when it's running, and they are suggesting that we do the same thing now. Here's the thing: it could last another year, it could last another day, and we do have a spare pump sitting in the shop. Now, whenever we had this pump pulled in 2019, pump number 1, and had it rebuilt and everything that goes into pulling the bad pump, put the new one in, it cost us, I think it was around $850. And of course it varies. I mean, this pump could need more work or less work, but I just want to give you information to help kind of gauge your decision making here. I would suggest that since we have a spare pump in the shop, we go ahead and have them swap them out. It's the same company. It's called FJF. It's a company that's been doing our maintenance for several years now. But I guess I would request that we go ahead and pull that pump number 2, have them put in the spare pump, and then what I'll have them do, I'll say, hey, let me know before you proceed too far what the cost is going to be on repairing this pump number 2.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
So what do you think about that?
Can I interject?
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
Ron, you and I both are familiar with, anytime you send a pump in, you can pretty much expect a bill that's going to be, somewhere around $1,000. So if we do elect to send this pump in, I think we should. Let's put a number out there. If it exceeds a certain dollar amount, then maybe Mark needs to let us know that. But if it's under, say, $1,500, let's get it fixed and move on.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jen.
Since this pump, I think you said could last maybe another year, or it could go out tomorrow, is there big harm in waiting and hoping that it lasts another year?
Oh, well, only in that if it fails, it could cause significant problems for the residents in Deerfield, because one of two pumps would be out and it might not be able to keep up with the system.
We do not want to postpone repairs on a piece of equipment that we know needs to be repaired. Because I guarantee you, we'll be out there some Sunday night dealing with this, paying emergency fees to a contractor to swap out pumps for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jen, we've always done this. We've always
Yeah.
tried to think ahead a little bit. And so, okay. I make a motion to allow up to $1,500 to get the pump switched out and get the one rebuilt.
I second it.
Okay, we got a motion by Ron and a second by Stan to buy a new pump and get the other one rebuilt.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, any more discussion? Go ahead, Jen.
So I'm sorry. I know Mark said that the last one was like $865 to rebuild or whatever, but it could be more, it could be less. But is that on top of the cost of them coming out and doing the actual switching of pumps?
Nope, that's included in the cost.
Okay, great. Sorry, go ahead. Thanks.
I thought that 850 was a little cheap, but okay, so we'll go ahead and vote on it by roll call. Jen?
Yeah.
Carla?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And Ron? I vote yes, so it's 5-0 to go ahead and get this. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to streets. So we received a contract back from the state of Indiana, giving us approval to proceed with our community crossing project.
Yay.
I just wanted we'd like to move forward with the advertisement for bids. And of course, I don't know if it's going to be possible, but it'd be nice if we could get the project completed before school starts, but that might be wishful thinking, but you never know. So I'd just like approval to proceed with advertisement for bids for the project.
Yes, we ought to go.
Yeah.
We ought to go ahead with that. I'll make a motion to go ahead and proceed with getting the bids for the grant project streets.
I
Second it.
second that.
Okay, we got a motion by Ron and a second by Stan to go ahead and let Mark get the bids out there. How do we vote? Jen?
Are we opening this up for discussion?
Oh, yeah, go ahead and discuss.
Everybody received a email from Reed Murtaugh today, and sheds light on several things. I think the board, before they continue any farther with this, needs to have an executive concerning land acquisition that was described in that email. Hello?
Well, the land acquisition isn't going through right now, so I don't.
Well,
But you can still have an executive session if you want.
Isn't that part of this community crossroads project that we're currently involved in?
Not if we don't have the land.
Yeah, you don't have the land, it's not. So um, it was, I think,
Well, could you
Ashland.
guys Ron, could you clarify, since it was on the list, is this being taken off the list or?
Yeah, the cul-de-sac that we were going to donate up there so you could get it asphalted and everything. There's been a bunch of stuff going on with it. It's got to be cleared up first. So uh, I told Jen today, and I forgot to email everybody, but we're just going to, on the crossroad thing, it'll just be Shady Lane, the straight part of it, not the cul-de-sac for now, along with all the other streets that are on the list. And we'll
So the
deal with that.
cul-de-sac is being taken out of this round of the CCG.
Right.
Okay. If that's the case, then there is no need for executive meeting.
Right. Right. Okay. So we go ahead. Okay. Any other discussion, and we'll vote on let Mark get bids. One thing I guess I forgot. I want to ask when you get these bids, Mark. Uh, at what time these extra things like that speed bump out on Dayton Road, will you ask them? I know it's not in the bid, but can you ask them at the same time to give us a price on the speed bump, or do you do that later, or what do you do?
I think the way that would unfold would be that whenever we have the bid opening and we see who has a low bid, we then have that discussion with that contractor.
Okay.
Ron, I thought on this speed bump that we were going to count cars and thus determine speed of cars and go through the county's procedure before anything like that was to take place. I know we talked about doing some signage. Obviously there's some signage that's needed out that way.
Actually, I've been talking to Scott and Mark about signage, about we've got a speed limit sign in the wrong place out there, but we also discussed this before. We don't need a tree has been run down, brutally bent into the ground, and if that had been a person, you or a kid, your wife or me, we'd be dead right now. I mow
That happened
along
during.
there. I mow along there all the time. The church mows along there. They've requested a speed bump. I've requested one. Other residents in Shady Lane have requested one. I've been taking pictures of people flying out there, and I've got those pictures to hand over to Scott. When Scott and the police sit out there, they do a good job sitting out there or looking, but the people immediately when they come across the tracks, I stand at our nursery and their brakes go on the minute they see them. And then the minute they leave, I'm still over there and they start flying over those tracks. They lose hubcaps, fenders, everything. So this is something that I think we talked about before, that we're not going to wait months and months and months. I'll make a motion right now that we do a speed bump, but out there that we need a speed bump and we need to have one. But I was going to wait till just wait. Or do you want to make a motion now, everybody?
I think we've had quite a bit of success with the signs on 38 as you enter 38 on both ends of town. Reminding people of their speed and what the speed limit is. Marshall Taylor could probably talk a little bit more about that if you'd like to hear it. But I think there's many things that could be looked at before.
I do too. If you come in town, I think those signs do a wonderful job. But I still notice some people trying to pass me when I'm going 30 and they're flying at 50. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. You guys do what you want, but I think I've lived out here too long and had too many close calls and seen too many people pulling kids along there, and it's a dangerous out there. It's a wide open area. We're going to have a subdivision out there. There's all kinds of trucks. They barrel along there, hell bent out of leather. They don't care where the hell they're going. So I'm going to make a motion that we put a speed bump out there to slow traffic down. We can always scrape it off years later if we decide there's something different. So I'd like to make that motion. We get prices and put a speed bump out on Dayton Road South by the church.
I second it.
Okay, we got a motion by Ron to get a speed bump and get a price for it, and a second by Stan. And I'll put a limit on that. Can't be more than $5,000. Okay, or we okay it at that. And Ashley, okay, Ashley, if you're going to mock this and laugh, I'm going to say something. We spent 5,800 stinking dollars to relocate a telephone post on your property on Harrison Drive for 6.5 foot so it'd look better for you, or so that somebody didn't bump their shoulder into it. This is a life and death matter out here. There probably ought to be something on Dayton Road North because everybody's screeching through that four-way stop. There ought to be something on Conjunction around the school and everywhere because people don't stop in this town. So we're going to
Well, Ron,
start out on Dayton Road, or you can stand out there and mow it and let the people knock you over. So any more
why don't
discussion
you
on
just
it?
make a motion for one speed bump? Why don't you make a motion for 15 speed bumps and put them at all these places that you're talking about?
Don't be a mocking person. We're starting with one, Ashley. Is there
Well,
any
you're
more discussion
talking
on
about
it?
some telephone pole that was in the middle of the sidewalk. That's not on my property, so give me a break.
Is there any
Ron,
more discussion on it?
I have a
Carla,
question.
go ahead.
I have a question for Ashley. I guess I just don't. You haven't really said. So, what's your opposition to a speed bump? I mean, maybe there's a really good reason. I don't know. What's your opposition to it?
I'm not opposed to speed bumps in the right place. We have several in some alleyways, okay? But on a major thoroughfare like Dayton Road, both north and south, there's things that you do. I look at speed bumps as a last resort. There's things that you do, with signage, advance warning of a speed zone ahead. You see those type of signs all the time. The signs that we have on 38, the speed limit signs that let you know what your speed is and what speed you're supposed to be going. There's things that you can do that are proactive. If you go out there right now today, Carla, you see as you're on Wyandotte heading into Dayton, there's one 50-mile-an-hour speed limit sign way the heck out of Dayton. There's not another speed limit sign until you are in front of the church where you're told it's 25 miles an hour. So people coming into town, they're naturally going to be doing 50. Going the other way, there's one sign after the railroad tracks. And by the way, I also am around that road quite a bit. So there can be, flashing signs that tell people what speed limit they're doing versus what it actually is. And, I think Marshall Taylor, might tell you that those type of signs are quite effective. We just recently, got this road, okay, so to speak. There could also be something like a stop sign put in at the First County Road at the edge of Dayton. I think that's County Road 430 or something. There could be a stop sign put there. So, when people leave that stop sign and you're going to have some new houses out that area, then they'll mentally realize that they are in a residential area or what is becoming a residential area evidently. So, if a speed bump's good for there, then you need to put one on Dayton Road, and you need to put them at all these other roads, streets here in Dayton that people have griped about it. Just if you're buying one for a road like that, then why not buy 6 or 8 or whatever else and just do them wherever Ron wants them. There's things to try before you go.
That may be, Ashley, but if by your logic, then if you're saying a stop sign would work out there, then why aren't they working in town? We've got people complaining in town. They're flying through the stop signs. They're not even stopping for the stop signs, and it's clearly a residential area.
Marshall Taylor would be a better person to talk to than me, but just human nature, I don't think you ever get 100% compliance on things.
Actually, that Dayton Road North.
We all drive down the interstate, speed limit 70 miles an hour on 65 out here. How many times do you get past? There's never 100% compliance.
Well, we can at least try, actually. Dayton Road North, I trimmed up every one of those tulip trees. We have spinners on the four-way stop signs, and people still barrel through it. Dayton Road South, we have a stop sign before, or a speed limit sign before the tracks, and one right past Kohler Brothers Nursery, and they see that. They can't miss it, and they barrel along there flying 70 by the time they get out past the church. So we need to start, Ashley, we need to start somewhere in this town. And I'm making a proposal. We start on Dayton Road. You move the telephone pole. Why don't we move everyone that needs to be moved back? Well, that's a asinine statement. You start with the one that you're worried about, that people are getting hit on or the trees are being run over on. You don't do every one.
Ice storm.
Do what?
The tree was ran over when there was ice on the road.
Well, so what? If they'd gone a little slower, Ashley, maybe they wouldn't have slid on the ice as much. That's a statement. You stand out there and let them run you down and see if you care if there's ice on the road or not. I made a motion for a speed bump.
I ride on that road every day, and I do not have cars flying around me at 70 miles an hour.
Because actually, you have a little dinky car that you don't want to speed bump to wreck it as you go over it. And yeah, when you pull out in front of a car, they're not going to fly around you. But you don't stand out there and work there 7 days a week, 18 hours a day practically, and see this traffic. Okay, so we can try it. Well, let's have the council vote on it. Actually, let's just have them vote on it.
I rode a bunch on a bicycle, and I do not feel threatened by cars speeding
You're
by
sitting,
me.
I saw you on a bicycle. You just started it. You're right on the sidewalk. Go out on the edge of the road and ride on the edge of the road and see how safe you feel. Just like I mow alongside of the road.
I do not ride on the sidewalk. I do ride in the road.
Yeah, all right.
It would be safer if people put their phones down and weren't driving and talking on their cell phones 24/7 either.
Yeah. Well, you better stop it, Michelle. So there's a motion on the floor and a second. So let's take a vote
here. Ron,
here.
this is Reed.
Yeah.
I believe that stop signs and yield signs have to be done by ordinance. I'm looking at the code right now. Says authority to erect stop signs can be done where an engineer and traffic survey indicates a greater degree of safety would result. A stop sign or yield sign is set forth in Chapter 73. So, yeah, this wasn't on the agenda. I'm just saying, I haven't researched this, whether this
was on the agenda
be done by a motion.
It was on the agenda before. Well, you can research it later, Reed. It was on the agenda. We talked about it. We're in the process of getting these roads done. I called Lafayette. They said they just had their road people do it. They don't need any special this or that. Maybe for a stop sign you do or whatever. So go ahead and research it later. But we're going to vote on the idea that we want it or not.
I don't know if you guys can do it without an ordinance, because I haven't looked at it. That's all.
Okay, well,
that's all I'm saying.
Before you make the ordinance, Reed, before you make the ordinance, we're going to vote on, do we want one or not? Okay, and then if we want one, the board might vote it down. But if we want one, then you can make an ordinance if you want to. But Mark can go ahead and get the prices on it.
The county has a technical transportation committee. I think it would be wise of each board member to seek the advice of that technical transportation committee.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you vote on it.
I asked for a vote, and we're going to vote. Say yes or no. Jen, do you yes or no?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
No.
Of course. And Ron votes yes. So I'm voting for a speed bump out there to save some lives and maybe be the first thing in this town that we start these darn things instead of talking about them for the next 20 years, because that's what we've been doing and nobody's ever done anything about it. And we still have people running we still have people running every stop sign up there. Sharman and all these people are all talking about it. So let's move on.
Dayton Road South.
Okay, let's move on here. So, Mark, you have any more?
Yes, I do. solicited bids for painting of the crosswalks in town. The last time they were painted was in 2018. There's 5 locations. 3 of them are surrounding the elementary school. The 4th one is out here on State Road 38 where the crossing guard is. And the 5th one is there at the 4-way stop where they put the new ADA ramps in at Clifty Falls and Dayton Road. I solicited bids from 3 contractors. One contractor let me know that he was not interested in bidding on it at this time, but I did receive 2 bids. One bid was from Bright Line Striping, who did the work for us in 2018. Their bid was for $2,722. The second bid I received was from Straight Lines Painting out of over at Shadeland. Their bid was $1,250. The specs that I wrote up for this primarily required the specs I used back in 2018 as far as cross hatching and stop blocks, and also 2 coats of what's called high visibility white traffic paint. So it is my recommendation to the board that we accept the bid from Straight Lines Painting out of Shadeland for $1,250. I'd like to award the contract to them. And of course, I'd like to get this completed before school starts.
I make a motion to have.
Any questions about those?
I'll make a
Are any
motion. Yep. Go ahead, Jen. Go ahead.
Are any of these locations that are getting painted, I'm sure you've thought of this, but places that are going to be messed up or torn up or redone or whatever later on? I mean, when we're doing all the street work.
No, they will not be affected.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I make a motion to have the lesser bid Straight Line, like Mark requested, of $1,250, do the crosswalk painting. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Okay, Ron made the motion and Jen seconded. I'll open it up for discussion. Anybody got any thoughts on it? Ashley, you got any thoughts? Okay. I thought it might be another safety issue. So we got a motion and a second to have Straight Line do the work for $1,250. We'll put it up for roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Carla? Ann?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And Ron, I vote yes, so it's 5-5 in favor of voting for Straight Line. So go ahead, Mark.
Well, thank you very much. Next item I have is a Mulberry Telephone fiber optic. I've been in communication with Randy Maish of Mulberry Telephone this week. What I was letting him know is that we have 2 significant town-focused projects that we're getting ready to start. One would be the relocation of the water lines out on State Road 38, and of course the second one being our street projects. So I requested of him that I gave him 3 options. One was, now that all the conduit is in Deerfield, that was completed today, a matter of fact, they could now start running fiber inside that conduit and start offering internet service or fiber optic service to those folks up in Deerfield. That way I'd just be doing locates on individual homes that were going to buy that service from them. The second option was just to pause everything while we're getting our projects completed. And then the third option was to proceed with the installation of the conduit. I think they're getting ready to come down Dayton Road and then cross over into Prestwick with just one crew. In addition to all that, I gave him a window. I said, I think all projects, the State Road 38 project and the street projects, the window I think is going to be from July 1st to September 1st, when I think that our projects will be up and running. And concerning that, I let him know that we really need to get this east end of town finished up and cleaned up, where his other subcontractor, Patent Construction, has been working since December. So in speaking to Mr. Mace this morning, two conclusions were reached. One is that they are going to reduce down to just one crew, which would be the Barriott crew that's been working in Deerfield. And the second conclusion was that Patent Construction will receive a July 1st deadline to get their portion of the project finished and completed and cleaned up, everybody's yards fixed back up by July 1st. So I think that at least we have a commitment from Mulberry Telephone on this, and we need to all, I know we've all been receiving concerns from residents about their yards and the incomplete work on the east end of town. And Mr. Mace also said that he's been receiving phone calls from residents also. So I think he's just as eager to get that section of the project completed and cleaned up. I guess as much as anything, I'm just giving you all a heads up and information so that if you do have residents contact you with their concerns, at least you have a bit more information. Is there any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay. That's good.
Last item I had. Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
I was just going to say that's good that Patton's got that deadline date. You were really worried about that, and that the other company's taken over. That's good news.
Yeah, well, hopefully we have to put our 2 cents worth in every now and then just to provide some guidance. I think, if not, it gets kind of independent out there, and it is our utility right away, and we do have a vested interest in this. So the last item I have here is this State Road 38 water relocation project. So just to remind everyone, that is we have to relocate the fire hydrant down by the cemetery, and then also replace 3 1-inch copper lines running underneath State Road 38. Bids are currently being solicited for this by BF&S Engineering. The bid opening will occur at Town Hall on June 24th at 3 p.m. So I think after that bid opening, the contractor has 30 days to begin work. So hopefully before the end of July, we'll actually see that work not only started, but I would like to see it completed, but we'll see how it goes. So bid opening at Town Hall on June 24th at 3 p.m. The only other item that I have is where The resident at 272 Washington Street, he's got his sidewalk completed and has submitted some billing, but I thought that we would probably just address that whenever we're looking at the sidewalk ordinance. So does
Yeah.
anybody have any questions about anything I've mentioned or anything else?
No, it sounds good, Mark. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think that's okay. Do we have any public comments? Jen, is anybody on the phone for the public comments?
Nope.
Oh,
And I had none submitted.
okay. It's amazing. Okay, any of the council, time for council comments on the utilities? Anybody got any comments? Okay. There being no other business then, this meeting is adjourned. Turn it over to Jen.
It's June 15th, and this is the regular monthly meeting of the Dayton Town Council. Ron already made the opening statements. Andy took roll call at the beginning of the meeting. So we'll just continue on the phone with the clerk treasurer, the town attorney, the town marshal, the town manager, and all 5 council members. Okay, agenda item number 1, roll call. That's been taken care of. We'll move on to agenda item number 2, attorney Reed Murtaugh. So the sidewalk ordinance has been moved to this agenda. And then we have the unified zoning ordinance and the voting ordinance.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah, so I'll start with UZO amendment number 100. So this amendment addresses 4 areas. So it addresses allowing basement window wells to extend into a front or rear setback in certain circumstances, would expand the maximum allowable floor area for contracting businesses, would require fewer parking spaces for farm machinery and industrial truck repair, and would introduce restrictions to shipping containers used for residential and agricultural storage. This was taken to a public hearing, and the Area Planning Commission voted 15 yes to 0 no to approve the amendments to the UZO. There are 6 sections of the Unified Zoning Ordinance that are affected, but just those 4 specific topic areas. So again, first is the basement window wells. Second is electrical contractors' building size limitations. So this amendment is basically done to address in the past when a rezone has been needed from ag to GB. This amendment would remove the standards from a footnote in the use table and create a new section, which will keep businesses from rezoning to GB when they are located in a rural zone and need their business to be in a building larger than 5,000 square feet. So the new section bumps up the 5,000 square foot building limitation to 8,000, allows the use on tracts as small as 2 acres in area. The next one is reduction of parking. So this only applies to industrial truck services and farm machinery service. So before, the amount of parking spaces that were required for those businesses was the same amount as parking spaces at the grocery store, and that will be reduced to 1 space for each employee on the largest shift, plus 1 space for 200 square foot of office space. And then lastly is using shipping containers as on-site storage buildings. So this amendment would create a definition for shipping containers, and this applies to residences that are not part of a farm. The amendment allows for shipping containers used for residential storage on a temporary basis in any zone, no more than a period of 90 days or at the administrative officer's discretion. These were all reviewed by the ordinance committee and passed with staff recommendation for approval. So I just need a vote to adopt UZO amendment number 100.
I make a motion to adopt UZO Amendment 100.
I second it.
There's been a motion made by Ashley and seconded by Stan to adopt the UZO Amendment number 100. Is there any further discussion before we vote? I have some. So usually with these amendments, I look them over and, like, obviously they apply to us, but I think to myself, these don't really apply to us. You know, it's, but when I was reading this one, I just started to wonder if these things wouldn't really start mattering a lot to us soon. Talking about the building limitations and the parking, I guess even the shipping containers on site. So I'm hoping that we can not vote on this right now and pick it up at the next meeting. Unless everyone else is ready to vote on it, that's fine.
Jen, I got some questions too I'd like to look in. I really didn't, some of these are questionable things and might relate to the things in town here, so I'd like to sort of hold off till the next meeting also. It's okay with Ashley and Stan.
Fine with me.
Okay, that'll give us a little more time to look into this. So. And Carla, what do you think?
That's fine.
Okay, thanks.
Should we just move on, or do you want to strike your motion?
I think we can just move on. The motion
Okay.
dies.
Okay, go ahead, Reed.
Okay, thank you. Next is the sidewalk ordinance. So this was discussed at the last meeting, and since then I have prepared a draft of an ordinance adopting the 50/50 public sidewalk replacement program. So basically we have public sidewalks who would be eligible only applies to the replacement of existing substandard sidewalks and does not apply to construction of new sidewalks or to private sidewalks. Sidewalks in need of replacement or repair shall only be identified by request of the property owner of the sidewalk in need of repair or replacements. So basically, that's the starting point from my understanding of the last discussion is, you know, if the property owner says, hey, we need our sidewalk to be replaced or repaired, they can voluntarily, apply for this program. And then, there's the procedures in place after that happens and, apply for the 50/50. So once that application is submitted, it would go to the town manager, who would then be required to physically inspect the sidewalk and make a recommendation to the town council regarding whether the application should be approved or declined. And then the town council would vote to approve or decline the application, and a list of factors to be considered by the town manager and the town council. And then the other things that we discussed is the cost of sidewalks would be split equally. However, the town would pay 100% of the costs and expenses associated with any sidewalk curbs that are required by the American with Disabilities Act. So that kind of addresses that portion of it. And then I believe that we need to have some further discussion regarding town identified hazardous sidewalks and then also new sidewalks. And remember, both of those are already addressed by the town code. So, this is what I guess you're discussing is whether, you want to make some kind of a change from what is currently in the town code to, potentially entering into a cost share for those other categories.
So my thoughts are for new sidewalks that the town decides they want, I think that it should be paid by the town 100%. And for sidewalks that the town deems hazardous that need to be repaired or replaced, I think a cost share should apply. But I also want to point out that I don't hope the town goes around to people's houses and just says, hey, you need to fix that sidewalk. But I'd like it in the ordinance.
So this is Mark. So the way I understand it is, and this program is for whenever a homeowner approaches the town about their sidewalk. And secondly, if I'm reading this correctly, is that it says that the town hires the contractor. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I don't think
Okay. And I think that's fine. I just want to make sure that everybody understands is that what we're doing is, so we have a homeowner that comes to us, says, hey, my sidewalk's busted up. I go out there and I look at it. Let's just say that it's busted up. I come to the town council and say, hey, Joe Smith at 123 Oak Street wants to replace the sidewalk, would like the 50/50. I agree with them. It needs fixed. So then I go, do I solicit bids, or do I just go find a fallback contractor that we regularly use? And we can get that worked out with time. And then so this contractor comes in and says, hey, it's going to cost $2,000. I go back to the guy at 123 Oak Street and say, hey, it's $2,000. We need $1,000 up front. Then we'll award the contract. We can get this work done. Is that kind of in a nutshell how this would unfold?
So
Yeah, Mark, I mean, I think that... Go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, I was just going to say that in my mind, I had it going like this. Homeowner comes to the town and says, I want to replace my sidewalk and I want it to be a cost share. We go look at it and say, yep, needs to be repaired. Go ahead, get your, I don't know if maybe just one quote is good, or maybe they bring us 2 quotes or something. I don't know. But then they choose the people, and then we reimburse when the work's complete. And obviously, like, they can't just have their uncle's cousin do it. It has to be like a legit thing that checks out. But put it on them.
I think you've identified my concern. If the town's going to be paying for the repair, I prefer for the town to be following its normal procedures. And, to answer Mark's question, I think you would just operate, in the same way that the town was doing the whole repair. I put that language in there, remember, just based on the sample ordinance from the town of Munster. Obviously, that doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. But that was the way that they did it, was that the contractor was selected by the town of Munster.
Well, I thought that we had looked at what Mark brought to us, and that the average cost was, I can't remember if it was $7 or $7.50 per foot total. And so we would split that, as opposed to just saying 50/50. It's at a maximum of whatever, because he went around and he did quite a bit of research from what I remember and brought that to us, and that the average cost is that per square foot.
That's what I thought also.
Carla,
Yeah.
and Carla, you're right. And so it's set right now. In the summer of 2021, the average price for removal of the existing sidewalk, installation of a new sidewalk to our specifications, plus the placement of any topsoil along the edges if needed, is $7 per square foot. So
And I think,
if
right, and I agree with that.
if
That language.
well, the thing is that it's very likely that price will change with time. So I don't think we want to put a specific dollar figure per square foot in the ordinance. However, I think that in my communication with this fictitious homeowner, that I would tell him, listen, this is the going rate. This is what we're willing to cost share on, no more, so that everybody knows out of the gate of what the expectations are, not only on quality wise, but also on cost wise. So there's some variables in there that will be addressed as a project is being approached. But I don't think those specifics need to be in an ordinance because they'll change with time.
But the separate issue that you guys do need to discuss is what your preference is for the homeowner selecting the contractor or the town selecting the contractor.
I thought that
think the
it would
town
be
should.
better and I thought it would be better for the homeowner to select it, because if they're going to be putting money into it, then they should, I don't know, like have a say in who's doing the work, I guess.
The homeowner's getting a.
Well, towns put money into it. They should have a say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember how it works right now is first it goes, I believe, to the homeowner, but if they decline, then the town has the authority to just hire their own contractor and do it and then assess.
If the last time we awarded one of these was back, I think, on Rob Hange's sidewalks, and he had it done, got the bid, had it done by Randy Scott, who everybody sort of agreed with, and then we split it 50-50. But if you have the homeowner, I don't care who does it, but if you have the homeowner get the bids and stuff with the specs that they have to be done okayed by Mark, it'd save Mark a lot of time from probably meeting and getting all the bids too. But if Mark does it, he has complete control over it too. If the homeowner does it, they might feel better that they're getting the bids and working with whoever they enjoy, I guess. So, or if they're doing it
Like, is
themselves.
there a reason that Mark couldn't approve, or the town approve the contractor? Like, let the homeowner choose, but we approve it?
Yeah, that's an idea.
Carla,
I think you'll get a lot of people from in the past when they did the few times talk about it. I think they sort of want to have a say so and be talking to the contractor versus you decide to do a sidewalk and the town just comes up and says we're going to have this one done by this person. I don't know. I mean, maybe
well,
not.
I'm thinking, like, if the work's being done in front of the person's house and they're getting it done, then maybe, if they see something wrong, or I don't know, like, they could be out there not keeping an eye on it. I don't mean that, but
Pride in ownership and having a stake in it.
Well, I didn't hear that. Was that you, Carla?
Yes.
Could you repeat that?
All I said was just that they would have a stake in it, pride in ownership. They're right there. If they see something, if they choose the contractor, they decide they know that the going rate is this, but they decide they want to add something else, that would be on them, and they could still add something, and it's their contractor, and they know that it's going to be additional charge, but this is what we agreed to. I mean, they would have a little more leeway if they decide, I'd rather have this in addition to as they're working. That gives them, it's still their home. It's public property in the sense of it's a sidewalk. Everybody uses the sidewalk, but it's still in front of their home. And if just like, taking care of a home, pride in ownership and give them some leeway. in having their work done. Just like going out hiring somebody to roof your house. I shouldn't tell you how to do that either, but
And then if they can't find somebody or want Mark to come up with, I guess they could, but
Yeah, I like the idea. If you're going to change it so that the property owner selects, I like adding in that the town has to approve it.
For sure.
yes, definitely.
Reed, is there any legal liability if somebody's using a contractor that isn't insured and bonded, or that type of stuff?
Yes.
Even when we do leaf collection, we make sure that person has adequate insurance, and I think naming the town as additionally insured maybe. So when we talk about people having, if we're paying bills for contractors, I'm just wondering if that enters into the equation.
Yeah, I mean, that was my main concern is, if we left it just with the property owner, the town is unprotected in the event that, they make a mistake and hire someone who's not qualified. And, then because the town has been involved in the project and has split the cost, then I think there's liability for the town, in the event someone gets injured, And so, yeah, I mean, I think that less liability if the town has full control, town approves. The middle ground is better than just leaving it completely to the property owner, because that way, the town still has that approval, and it's gonna, we can put in requirements that are, like you just listed, licensed, qualified, all those kind of things. I mean, we can add those things in if we're going to change it from the town selecting to the property owner.
Yeah, they have to meet the criteria of the town, and Mark would be checking that, whether it be insurance or the thickness of the sidewalk or whatever. Mark still oversees all that.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so anything else on that one?
Did we agree that if no? Oh.
Yeah. Are we finished with the discussion of the selection of the contractor?
Gotcha.
Okay. So the next thing is for new sidewalks. What is there any other discussion in addition to what Jen said?
Does anybody know what our ordinance is, or Tippecanoe County ordinance? I know typically when people build things, that sidewalks are a requirement, before they can get occupancy permits.
Yeah, for a new building, they have to. Yes.
Yeah. So I kind of question about building, the town paying for building new sidewalks in this discussion.
We already. Wait, what? You have a problem with the town paying for the new sidewalks? Is that what you said?
I don't have a problem with paying to repair existing sidewalks, but somebody constructing a new sidewalk, I can see some problems arise from that. Because they're,
okay.
if they're building a new business, house, whatever, okay, and they're thinking the town's going to pay for that new sidewalk, but yet it's, required with Tippecanoe County, some of the building permits, procedures and stuff like that, then, I don't know.
You're right. You're right, Ash.
I can read the code for you. So 93.08 says, whenever in the opinion of the town council, any new sidewalk shall be built or old sidewalk repaired in the town, the council shall pass a resolution affirming the fact and shall forthwith give notice to the abutting property owner or his or her agent. The notice to be given personally or by registered mail. Notice shall give 30 days. for the date of notice in which to build or repair the sidewalk, and in case the owner or agent shall fail to build or repair any sidewalk after notice is given, then the town shall proceed to build or repair the sidewalk, and the cost, charges, and expenses thereof shall be charged against the owner of the property and shall be collected. So, yeah, the current law, the current town code, basically, allows the town to put that all on the property owner. So I don't know that we would want to change that 100% so that the town is, in all circumstances required to pay. Because that would be kind of tying the hands of future councils. But maybe an application can be made to have the town, pay. I mean, maybe you should maybe you don't need to change the ordinance. And, if that issue comes up and the town wants to pay, then they can come to the town council and request it. And if the town has the funds and they want to do it, then they can do it. And, whatever percentage, that's one option, is just to leave it on a case by case basis for new sidewalks.
I think that would be better.
So when I was thinking of new sidewalks, I wasn't thinking new construction with a new sidewalk. I was thinking of places like on South Street. If the town says, hey, we'd really like to put a sidewalk on South Street, I was thinking, well, I don't think it's right that the town would suddenly go to every homeowner on South Street and say, hey, you got to pay for this brand new sidewalk. So that's why I was thinking the town would pay in that instance. I hadn't considered
they should.
new sidewalk.
Yeah, the town-owned property would be different. Town wouldn't be able to force anyone to pay for the sidewalk on town-owned property. This is just on, property owners, sidewalk on a property owner's own property.
Okay, great. What, Ashley?
Well, I think Reed summed it up perfectly, so
Okay.
I don't have any.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and then the other category is town identified hazardous sidewalks. So the question is, do you want me to add that where residents can apply for the 50-50 cost share?
If we go and say, hey, your sidewalk is hazardous, you need to replace it, then we allow them to be part of the 50-50. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the next step up. Before we were just saying, it's the only thing we're adding is, if you voluntarily do it. This is, the different category of, right now, we might force people to do something because of the hazard. But instead of putting it all on them, we're offering 50-50.
So if we offered them 50-50 and they said, well, I don't want to pay any of it, then we make them pay all of it? Or do we still just charge them the 50?
Right. I mean, if they don't want to, if they don't want to apply for the 50-50, then I think we'd want to write it so that we're not waiving our rights to, the current ordinance. So it's basically to force them to do it. I don't know that, you guys have actually done that much, but
our
I think
idea,
it's there. Go ahead.
Our idea is not to just go out and look at these sidewalks and say, we want this one replaced and that one, right? This is more for the person that wants to replace their sidewalk, because if they got a ratty sidewalk, they're the ones that are liable. It's their insurance company that's covering somebody. Or do we want to? Does Lafayette tell people they got to replace it if it gets too ratty, or what?
I don't know what Lafayette does.
I mean,
well, hey, this is Mark. So let's say that we have the county do a sidewalk inventory for us, like they've done in the past, and we've got a map here that indicates that. So I think the way that would unfold is that Once we have that done, we actually would then look at securing grants for sidewalk improvements through different agencies where neither the homeowner nor the town would uh, incur costs. So I think there's different revenues for different situations, and you want to be careful about tying yourself down in wording too much because there's just so many different scenarios.
Yeah. Yeah,
anyway,
I think that's a
my
good
2 cents.
point, Mark. So I did remove language, or we don't have language in ours because it was only if someone voluntarily came to us and wanted to do it. But in the Munster ordinance, they did reference that they did a complete town-wide sidewalk inventory and assessment using an objective, systematic, and comprehensive condition assessment approach on all town sidewalks. And this master sidewalk list is now used as a basis for budgeting decisions and prioritizing scarce resources to improve the town sidewalk infrastructure moving forward. So, we could certainly follow something in line with what Mark's saying for that category. Or we might not even need to address it in the ordinance. So do you guys want to just look into it a little further? I mean, we're not going to decide on anything tonight.
Well, it'd be nice to have it decided so that you can write it up. What's the hang up? What are we not decided on? The master list?
The main thing that we're not decided on is what we want to do for town identified hazards.
Yeah. So it just feels.
What are we doing right now, Mark? Are we doing anything right now?
Well, I'm looking at the map right now, and no, they're not identified as hazardous. They are just strictly the way they're identified is through high, moderate, and low priority. So it's really not a ranking as far as safety goes. It's just as far as need goes. So I think that's probably identified in that way for a reason, because whenever you step over into the line of identifying something as hazardous, you then are identifying it as a safety concern, of course.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And going back to Munster, they did assign a rating of 1 worst to 4 best. The town shall utilize and exercise official judgment and discretion when ranking substandard sidewalks in need of repair. There is a good amount of immunity, though, if you're not repairing something because of a policy decision. That's if it's on a list and it's identified as a hazard, that doesn't necessarily mean that you open yourself up. Because governments have to operate in that way.
Yep.
I mean, it's not
right.
Never a guarantee, but
it's not a liability.
Yeah, you might have immunity. Protection.
Sure. And what you find is that most of the sidewalks that are in the worst shape are because of a large tree that's growing right beside it. The sidewalk is heaved up because of this 30-inch diameter maple tree. And that's a whole different scenario there, not to make things even more complicated, but we don't want to replace an existing sidewalk where there's a big old tree standing there that's just going to, in a short matter of time, damage the new sidewalk. So there's just so many different scenarios. I just think that they have to be addressed on a case-by-case basis.
But as it stands now, if one of these were addressed, our ordinance says if the town says your sidewalk is hazardous, then the town is going to tell you to repair it. And if you don't, then they'll repay it and you have to pay it. So I just think that it kind of would be not right to go to a homeowner and say, hey, your sidewalk is hazardous. Want to go 50-50 on this? And then they say, well, I really can't, or whatever. And then the town says, okay, pay the whole thing then.
Yeah, that's
I'm
not
just
right.
saying, should we still make them part of the cost share?
Yeah, but if both of those are at the discretion of the town council, neither of those can happen without the approval of the town council. So, you're just leaving, it's really a question of how you guys want to, govern. Do you want to leave it as a discretionary item, or do you want to, decide it in advance and put it in an ordinance? Right now, it's already, it's already in an ordinance that way. So the only thing you can do is, change it for everyone to a different way. And I think that might be challenging for this category, but it's your guys' decision.
So right now, the purpose of this is for somebody that's got a junky sidewalk that wants to fix it up and repair it and replace it. They come to the town, they can go 50-50. But are we really
That's
wanting
the
to?
ordinance that I drafted. Only
Right.
includes that. My question, is do you guys want to do anything else? If you don't, the fallback is whenever in the opinion of the town council, fill in the blank. So anything other than a voluntary request, it's just all at the discretion of the town council.
Yeah. I think it ought to be voluntary right now and start with this. And then if something is really terrible, like Mark said, we can try to work it in with if we decide we want it replaced, then we try to work it in with the community crossroads stuff and grants, but see how it works. I don't think we want to get into forcing people to replace sidewalks. I sort of think Lafayette, if they want something replaced, they replace it, but they might help the people that want to do their own and give them partial help. But so is that what people?
So I think
do we want to force other people? What do you guys think? Do we want to force people to put in a sidewalk if we just say we think it's too ratty? I didn't think that's what we really wanted to do.
Well, we can. Right now, our ordinance, we can do that.
Yeah, so I think the question is, do you want the ordinance how I drafted it, which says new sidewalks, no change, rely on the ordinance? Hazardous sidewalks, no change, rely on the ordinance. Or do you want me to change what I have drafted and make something different? And I think what you guys are wanting is just to leave it how it is for both those other categories.
I think so.
I think that's the best thing that gives us some leeway, that gives us some maneuverability without leaving us hanging out there with no direction either.
That's right.
I agree. Let's
Okay.
put on it.
Okay, so I will prepare a new draft. The main change is a selection of contractor and send that on, and then we should be ready to vote it on at the next meeting.
Thanks, Reed.
All right. Thank you. Nothing is needed on the voting ordinance as far as I know. I have not started making any changes, but we'll work on that very shortly. Last item is just the monthly report. So May attorney fees were $5,703. 2021 attorney fees total are $16,152.50 through 5 months. In May, I worked on Shady Lane project, payment plan, contract resolution. We worked on the police matter. Had a significant amount of time for that. We did the American Rescue Plan ordinance, and we did sidewalks. That covers the main areas, and that's all I have for me.
Thanks, Reed. Okay. Agenda item number 3 is the allowance docket. And unfortunately, I know I sound like a broken record, but we can't approve these because we don't have like time cards. And all last year and January, March, April, Michelle, our clerk treasurer, sent us the time cards. So she's been doing it for, so that we could approve the allowance docket. But for some reason, she's decided to no longer send the time cards. So Mark and Bridget, I'm wondering if you guys could please forward your time cards to the council and turn them into the clerk treasurer.
I have actually asked Mark and Bridget to go ahead and scan their time cards to you guys before they turn them into me, just like Scott does.
Okay, perfect. I don't know.
Yeah, I can do that starting this next pay period.
Thank you. Michelle, in the meantime, could we, just one last time, could you get us February and May?
Yes, unfortunately, I've had some uncontrollable circumstances that I was not able to get you May. I thought I had sent over February's, but apparently I was wrong.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so that'll take care of the allowance docket. Agenda item number 4, the claims. We do not have a claims sheet this month. Hopefully we'll have some in the future. But we do have some invoices that we've had, and I've sent a Dropbox to the council. So we can go ahead and approve these. We'll need to sign the individual APVs for these since we're approving them individually. I do send you the claims docket every month. Again, with me not being in the office, you just did not get this month, but you still have not been approving the claims docket, even when I provide them.
We haven't been getting claims dockets for several months.
Okay.
You get the claims docket every meeting.
No, we don't.
Okay, speaking of the claims docket, could we have the rest of the months that we're behind? There's a list.
Bridget has pulled everything from my office except for what would be the June claims docket. And she has scanned and emailed those all, or put them on the thumb drive. So she's came and got them all from my office.
We're still missing March. Okay, well, I'll get with Bridget and hopefully you'll allow her to get those.
I've allowed her in my office every time she's needed to. And as far as we knew, she was up to date, except for this month's claims docket.
Okay. So we'll approve these invoices. I move to approve Alpha Business Technologies invoice number 214280, dated 6/19 of 21, in the amount of $225. Invoice number 214252, dated 5/24/21, in the amount of $250, totaling $475. There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve the invoices from Alpha Business Technologies for $475. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. We're voting to approve Alpha Business Technologies for $475. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Dan? Dan? Okay, we'll come back to Stan. Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Okay, Stan, we're voting on Alpha Business Technologies invoices for $475. How do you vote? Oh. Yeah, Stan, are you there? Okay. Well, that one passes 4-0 with Stan being unable to vote. I move to approve B.L. Anderson invoice number 15393 dated 5/19 of 21 in the amount of $1,085.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve the invoice from B.L. Anderson. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay, we're voting to approve paying B.L. Anderson $1,085. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Ann? Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Ann, are you there? Okay, that passes 4-0 with Stan not voting. Okay, I move to approve Church Hiddle and Antrim invoice number 227862 dated 5/21/21 in the amount of $6,967.50.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve Church Hiddle and Antrim invoice. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay, this is to approve the invoice to Church Hiddle and Antrim for $6,967.50. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Dan? Carla?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Carla, I didn't get that. Could you repeat it?
Yes.
Thank you. Ashley?
No.
Dan?
Stan has lost connection.
Okay, thank
yeah.
you. Is he calling back in? Oh, okay. I just got a message from him. His phone won't work. Okay, so that passes 3-1 with Stan unable to vote. Okay, I move to approve Christopher Burke invoice number 22319 dated 6/7/21 in the amount of $524.15. There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve Christopher Burke for $524.15. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay, we're voting to approve Christopher Burke for $524.15. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Stan? Still unavailable. Carla? Oh, no. Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that passes 4-0 with Stan currently disconnected. I move to approve complete sweep invoice 7340 dated 5/20/21 in the amount of $1,120.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve complete sweep for $1,120. Any further discussion before we vote? Okay, we're voting to approve paying complete sweep $1,120. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Dan, are you back yet? Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 4-0 then with Stan being unable to vote. I move to approve FJF Services invoice number 27016 dated 5/12/21 in the amount of $1,665.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve the FJF Services invoice. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay, we're voting to approve FJF Services for $1,665. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Dan, are you back yet?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
I vote yes. Stan, just to be clear, that yes was to approve complete FJF services.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I vote yes. That passes 5-0 with Stan now being back and able to vote. I move to approve the following Menards invoices. Invoice number 393 dated 3/18 of 21 for $69.15. Invoice number 5049 dated 5/3/21 in the amount of $32.99. And invoice number 23509 dated 6/1 of 21 in the amount of $26.18, totaling $128.32.
Second.
A motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve these three Menards invoices. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay, we're voting to approve Menards for $128.32. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
I vote yes, that passes 5-0. I move to approve Mission Communication. Hold on, let me stop for 1 second. Mission Communication is left off the agenda along with the Christopher Burke. I didn't get on the agenda, and also the Lafayette Glass. But these are invoices that were in the Dropbox, and we have had them. I just somehow missed putting them individually on the agenda. Okay. I move to approve Mission Communication invoice number 1052328 dated 7/8 of 21 in the amount of $1,389.60.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve the Mission Communication invoice. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay, this is to approve Mission Communication for $1,389.60. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Tammy, yes, so that passes 5-0. I move to approve Mr. and Mrs. Tire invoice number 240468 dated 5/14 of 21 in the amount of $57.42. I need a second for that motion. Thank you.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve the Mr. and Mrs. Tire invoice. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay, we're voting to approve Mr. and Mrs. Tire for $57.42. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
I vote yes, that passes 5-0. I move to approve Murtaugh Law invoice 818 dated 6/3 of 21 for $5,703.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve the Murtaugh Law invoice. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay, we're taking a roll call vote to approve $5,703 for Murtaugh Law. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
I vote yes, that passes 5-0. I move to approve USA Blue Book invoice number 605589 dated 5/17 of 21 for $164.71.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve USA Blue Book for $164.71. Is there any further discussion before we vote?
Yeah, Jen, this isn't that several months ago there's a book ordered and we canceled it. We didn't want it. This isn't it, is it?
Nope. This is things that I believe this was Mark, and it was like flags that he needs and paint.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Never mind.
Any other further discussion? Okay. This is to approve USA Blue Book for $164.71. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Carla? No. Ashley?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that passes 5-0. I move to approve utility supply company invoice 1359514 dated 4/30/21 for $473.36.
Second.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve the utility supply company invoice. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote to approve utility supply company for $473.36. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that passes 5-0. These next two are for the utility clerk, Bridget. She applied to become a notary. So we have one fee. It was for an application for the notary license. That was on 6/2/21, and that was $75. And a criminal history that needed to be done for that. Also 6/2/21, and that was for $16.32. So I would move to approve reimbursing Bridget for those fees for $91.32. A motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve reimbursing Bridget $91.32. Any further discussion before we vote? Okay, we're voting to reimburse $91.32 to Bridget, the fees that she's paid to become a notary. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
I vote yes, so that passes 5-0. And I do just want to point out here that these things that Bridget paid are not really any different than when I had to go get a flash drive for the utility office from Staples, and I had to be reimbursed, or when Ron had to pay for the printer and had to get reimbursed. And in all of those instances, Michelle, you wait until they've been approved and then you write the check. And so on this, I don't know why it would be any different if it's not been approved. I don't know why you would write a check ahead of time. I know that you've been doing that a lot, and we've talked about it a lot, and you cannot pay things before approval unless they are specifically mentioned by ordinance. Okay.
They
Last
were
one
approved
is
at the May meeting.
we did approve to allow her up to $200. We approved up to $200 to be spent for Bridget to become a notary, but we never approved $75 for an application for notary license or $16.32 for a criminal history to be done. That still
You
has to be
approved the
approved.
process of getting it. You knew that that's what it was. I'm not arguing.
We did
with
not
you.
have those specifics. We still have to approve each individual one. Okay. Last one, I move to approve Lafayette Glass invoice number 374580 dated 3/1/21 for $295.04.
Okay.
There's been a motion made by myself and seconded by Carla to approve Lafayette Glass for $295.04. Is there any further discussion before we vote?
What is that invoice for?
The
obviously
utility,
Lafayette Glass.
the clerk treasurer window. That nice sliding window in the hallway.
And my understanding was that was included with the quote from the contractor. You know,
Yep.
we're saying it's not.
No, it wasn't, Ashley. And I think he called you and he told you exactly what it was about. He repaired that you had it misunderstood. I think he repaired lights and balances and did some other work in there, and that was not included. That I understand, but
Okay.
Okay, so we're moving to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
The whole thing came to 295 more, but he did quite a few extra things, and so the work is done.
Okay, are we ready to vote, or is there any further discussion? Okay, we're voting to approve Lafayette Glass for $295.04. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Carla, Carla,
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
and I would vote yes. So that passes 5-0. So that takes care of all of the claims we have right now.
Hey, Jen, this is Mark.
Yes. Yeah, Mark.
So, so under claims, do we want to address where the resident at 272 Washington Street has completed his new sidewalk and is requesting reimbursement, the 50/50 reimbursement? This is
that
kind of
something
how
we can
all
do
this
without
conversation started.
Yes. Is that something we can do without actually even having that program and ordinance ready?
I believe you can just do it at your discretion for an individual case, but I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I haven't.
We did them before. We did them before on an individual case, Reed. So
Yeah,
Okay.
I would think so.
as long
So
as
can we have
Mark's
that
got the bill,
Well, let me give you the details.
Do we have an
first,
invoice?
okay? I do. I have the bill that he got, a copy of the bill he got from the contractor. So his bill is $3,226. However, it was 416 square feet of sidewalk. Okay. At our allowable rate of $7 per square foot, that would come to $2,912. So, because this was done not through our ordinance or whatever, he went and hired a contractor, had it done. His contractor charged him more than what we feel is the going rate, but that's between him and his contractor. That does not affect how much we pay. So, although the contractor paid him charged him $3,200 more or less, under our criteria, it should have been around $2,900. So, with that all being said, we will pay. I mean, it's my understanding that we will pay half, or $3.50 per square foot, to have an old sidewalk removed, the new one installed to our specifications, and topsoil placed along the edge. So, using that criteria, our reimbursable amount to this homeowner at 272 Washington would be $1,456. So, and you make a good point, Jen. I mean, the program was not in place then, but Ron makes a point that we have done it in the past. So I guess
we started this program sort of because of that sidewalk, also to clarify it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Mark, one
and
thing
he
too,
had conversations with. Yeah, go ahead.
We can't pay this bill tonight, just so you know. We have to have the bill 5 days ahead of time. So we want to stick to that rule.
Sure.
Yeah. But you're right on the idea, the 350 and everything, and the so we could okay it at the next meeting, I guess.
So now all that I have is the bill that he received from the contractor. I do not have a bill that he has submitted to the town for reimbursement. So is this bill he received from the contractor sufficient, or should I go to Mr. Bell and say, hey, we actually need a bill from you to the town for reimbursement?
Oh, I would hope not.
I would think. I mean, I think that
shouldn't Mark.
The contractor bill is the most important thing. Yes.
Well, I would think you'd staple the contractor bill with what your figures you came out with, and that's presenting us with a bill that we can, okay, got all the figures on it.
Okay, yeah, and that's fine. I just want to make sure I get you everything that you need.
Yeah, good.
We might want
This-
confirmation that that bill was paid before we pay him
Yeah.
to the resident. You know, because we don't want a contractor then coming after us the remainder. Not that anyone would do
Okay.
that, but you know.
Sure. Well, I'll let Mr. Bell know that we need a bill marked paid.
Yeah.
This place really looks nice over there. They did a good job.
Yep, he's working on it. That's all I had there, Jen. So.
Okay. Yeah. So get that to us. We'll get it on the next claim. Thanks, Mark. Okay.
Yeah.
Agenda item number 5 is the report. Okay, so we do finally have all the reports from December through April, and I've reviewed them. Hopefully others have as well. And we can't approve them as they're presented because they don't reconcile. So hopefully Michelle can re-present them to us when they're balanced and we can look at them again. The record balance on the bank rec has to match the fund report for the month, and they aren't considered reconciled if they don't. And all those reports flow into one another. So we can't approve any of those reports. I'm going to say that every month, but it's our money we're talking about. We're not just going to approve it without the things actually balancing.
We're talking about the 9-cent difference.
Okay, so next is
I didn't think you could answer the question.
not entertaining you, Michelle. So we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes.
What you're talking about.
Everyone does have the final minutes as they've been edited, but I didn't get them to you guys except a couple days ago. And there's at least 2 council members not comfortable approving those at this time. They'd like more time to look over them. So at the next meeting, we will vote on those final minutes. And then hopefully by then we'll have the other minutes from Michelle. Hopefully she can get us caught up. I think we're behind by 4 now. 5, 6, including the meeting tonight. So hopefully
No, you're
we can
not
have
behind 6. Just the May meeting. So quit lying.
We're behind. We do not have May
Obviously.
11th, 2021 Utility Board, May 11th, 2021 Town Council, May 27th, 2021 Utility Board, May 27th, 2021 Town Council, and that would be 4. And then the 2 for tonight would be 6/15/2021 Utility Board, 6/15/2021 Town Council.
How are those
Okay,
behind
so
them when
we're
the
gonna-
meeting is still going on? Good God. Get over yourself.
We're going to move on to agenda item number 7, police with Marshall Taylor.
Ridiculous.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to just bring an item to the council's attention in regards to the police schedule. Currently, we are down 3 officers, and that includes one that is involved in some training that's out of state, but he's been out will be out for a week. So we've had some shifts not get covered. We have 2 other officers that have left the department. The one that's at training will be returning, but I just got notified last week that another officer plans to resign at the end of his rotation this month. So that will keep us down 3 officers. What that means to the schedule is I have like 9 open shifts that are not going to be covered. Now, part of that is exacerbated because I have a vacation scheduled, so we don't always schedule a coverage for my vacation days, but that's thrown in the mix. So as a result of that and looking at some possible solutions, We have advertised, and the police department plans to move forward with trying to find a full-time officer. So that is one long-term solution, but doesn't help us here in the interim. Another thing that I wanted to bring up along with that search for a full-time officer, due to email and job posting board problems with the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, my listing for the police officer did not take effect until this week. We had set a July 1st deadline, and I wanted to ask the council if we thought we should move that back, since that is fast approaching and we haven't had a lot of time for that advertising to take place and reach out. I would suggest we move it back a month to August 1st.
Yeah. Do we need a motion for that? I'm on board with that.
Sounds good.
I don't think we need a motion as long as everybody's generally okay with that, moving it back.
I'm okay with it.
Carla, Ashley,
Yes, I agree. Move it back.
okay. Carla? Yes. Okay.
And just to explain that a little bit further, the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy website is probably the biggest place where departments post their openings across the state. I have also posted on a local email list that reaches quite a few local officers, and you would hope by word of mouth and spreading news such as that we would get some outreach from that. But we haven't advertised anywhere else. So just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. Depending on what happens with rotations, with the remaining officers we have, we may want to consider the possibility of adding another part-time officer. I know I've been reluctant to do that because we had this time last year we had 8 officers, and that was plenty of staffing to have to manage, and I didn't want to add any more. But due to unforeseen circumstances and the attrition that we've had, that may be something we want to consider in the future. That's just food for thought. Right now, I think the scheduling problem will ease a little bit after June, but we're still going to have some holes, and we can think about if we want to put that out there or not in the future. But I just wanted to keep you abreast of everything that was happening with the schedule, and if you don't see some cars for a few shifts, the reason therefore, as always, the county will still respond to any emergencies or problems that we will have, but the response times might lack because of that. Any questions, comments, suggestions on that situation? If not, that's all I wanted to bring your attention to.
Okay. Anyone? Thank you, Marshall Taylor.
You're welcome.
Okay. Agenda item number 8, public comments. We have no callers, and I've had nothing submitted. Agenda item number 9, council comments. Do any council members have any comments?
Nope.
I got
do
one.
not.
I got an
Go ahead,
item.
Ron.
I forgot when we were talking about that speed bump. I just wanted to. We need a couple. I talked to Scott and Mark about this before. we're going to move the one reduced speed ahead because it's in the wrong spot out there. But Mark, do we have, we need to get up a couple more speed limit signs. So do we have 2 more speed limit signs, or do we need to buy them?
Nope, we have them.
Okay, good. Well
Yeah,
then,
and I've already, so we have, and I'd sent out that email, so we have the post and the signage. I had the 811 locate out there where it was identified where we want to put the new sign.
oh, okay.
So it's all good to go. The only thing we need to get is a bag of Sackcrete because usually we set these posts in dry Sackcrete and then just let it set up with rainwater over time. So it's just it's ready to go. It's locate's been done, materials on hand except for the Sackcrete.
Oh, okay, good. That's all I got then.
Thank you, Ron.
Yep.
Ashley, do you have anything?
No, that's good.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, having no other business before us, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.